Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 15. I'm Tony, and this game makes me wonder just how much a grocery store and a dungeon actually have in common.
Oh, more than you would probably think.
This game would lead you to believe.
I'm Jeff, and today we're going to be talking about Kwirk. So before we begin, we do want to emphasize, if you're watching on YouTube or thinking about playing this game, there is a good amount of flashing. So if you're photosensitive or just don't like seeing that, just be aware that this game does have a good amount of that, and take that into account.
Yes.
We've been thinking and brainstorming about some bonus episodes that we would like to potentially release on a Patreon. But we did want to get some listeners' opinions and thoughts on what they think about that concept as a whole. And then also, what would you like to hear us talk about? We're kind of thinking maybe some history or what we're playing outside of the Game Boy, maybe some interviews with other individuals, those sorts of things, but let us know what you think.
Please.
With kind of the housekeeping out of the way, Tony, do you want to remind us what our listener question from Bugs Bunny was?
Sure thing. This was from the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, except no substitutes. And the original version of that Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle game in Japan didn't star Bugs Bunny. We talked about that a lot in the episode, that there were different sprites and characters used for this particular game. And the original Japanese version wasn't Bugs Bunny, it was Mickey Mouse. And notably, in the Japanese version that starred Mickey Mouse, the game's title music, instead of just being a kind of generic jingle like it was in the version we had, was a Game Boy rendition of a well-known Mickey-related tune. Jeff, I think you said you might have a guess last time?
The only thing I can think of is the whistle tune from Steamboat Willie, but that's the only related thing that I could think of.
That's a good guess. That would be pretty cute, actually. No, it's the Mickey Mouse Club theme.
Oh, okay.
MICKEYMOUSE. Yeah, that one. It is very recognizable. Like, even for being the chiptune version that it is, if you've heard that song before in like any capacity, whether it's on a TV show or like at the park or something, you can pretty much pick it out as soon as it starts.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that also makes sense. And I guess Steamboat Willie is potentially technically a different character than Mickey, but
public domain.
we're not getting into Disney lore here, I suppose. So, interesting. With that out of the way, quick opinion on Kwirk. Do you think someone should play as a tomato and run around and solve puzzles?
I think so.
Going with our trend, I think I would say no, but it's close. It's close. So I guess we'll wrap back around to that at the end after we've discussed some more. But let us know what the back of the box says.
Okay, so the back of the box on this one has a subheader for Kwirk, which actually we had just discussed off the air before we started recording the episode about whether we were going to say it was Kwirk or Kwirk, he's amazing. And I think this is where I had seen that.
Yeah, spelt A-maze-ing.
Right. So I think that's where I had seen that. But anyway, back of the box. Kwirk, he's amazing. Everybody's run into quirks, like when your shoelaces get tied together or socks never matched. And behind it all was the original Kwirk himself. But now, Kwirk, the chilled tomato, is in a bit of a stew. Somebody has set a trap for his main squeeze, Tammy, and Kwirk's the only truckin' tomato with a chance to rescue her from this puzzling predicament. With Kwirk, you'll mash through many a maze, move bunches of blockers, outwit plenty of pits, and just when you think the labyrinth is licked, a trickier one appears. So put on your shades, get your thinker in gear, And remember, Tammy's only got one hope, you. I actually kind of love that.
Yeah, they commit to the bit for sure.
They do.
With, he's in a bit of a stew, and they just, they commit to the bit of you're playing as a tomato for some reason and, trying to save your tomato girlfriend.
I love the idea, though, that minor misfortunes in your life are this tomato's fault.
Yeah, he's just a little gremlin who comes around and messes with you. But the game released March 1990. Yeah, you're playing as Kwirk the tomato.
A tomato with a green mohawk.
Yeah.
And shades. Cool guy shades.
Yeah, trying to save your tomato girlfriend. So I know in the past I've talked about puzzle games having stories and how it's, in my opinion, a little unnecessary.
Superfluous.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with this one. I for whatever reason, a tomato saving his tomato girlfriend it's fine. It's a good story for a puzzle game.
Punky little jerk tomato.
But yeah, with that, is there anything else, kind of background, etc., that you want to go into, or do you want to dive into the mechanics?
I think the only other thing before we move on is that this is an Acclaim game. We've seen Acclaim stuff before, and probably will continue to see a lot of Acclaim stuff. They were definitely big around this time on the NES and the Game Boy, so that's worth noting. But I don't have a super huge amount of any development sort of things, and I actually do have kind of a lot to say about this one, I think. So I'm ready to move on.
All right, let's do it. So, a quick mechanics breakdown. It's a puzzle game. So, you're solving puzzles by moving blocks, turning shapes, etc., getting to the end of the puzzle. The D-pad moves you around. A menus or restarts the level, depending on what game mode you're in, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then if there are multiple characters in the level, select will switch between characters. And that's it. Those are the controls. The rest of it is just solving the puzzle and moving around. So how was your gameplay? How far did you get? Did you complete all 99 rooms of the heading out category? How did you interact with the game?
I played, as I usually do, in 2 sessions, and I tried both of the solo game modes. So heading out and
going up.
Heading out and going up. So going up being the one where you just progress through all 99 levels of this dungeon from start to finish. I got to, I think it was the 11th floor.
Okay.
I finished like the first stage or the first level where they actually show like a little cutscene that you did that. So I got that far on that mode, and I completed 2 runs of heading out at 10 puzzles. So in that mode, where you set your puzzle limit and you just kind of go through them all like as fast as you can to earn points. I did that one 2 times. So I didn't get like all the way to the end of the game, but I feel like I saw a good amount of what there was on offer.
I think that aligns pretty closely with my playthrough as well. And yeah, I was surprised how many options I guess I was given when I booted up the game. You have 3 different game modes: going up, heading out, versus mode. And then in all of those, you have level selects, difficulty selects, like a lot of different, just options on how you want to interact with the game. But then it also kind of feels like it is kind of unnecessary because the game is kind of the same regardless of what you choose. You're still doing the puzzles, you're still the same gameplay, etc. It's just, I guess, how difficult it is, or
how you are making allusions to the difficulty. But I do have to ask, did you try the game on multiple difficulty modes? Because I played on normal and easy, and normal stumped me within the first puzzle or 2, and I had to play on easy for pretty much the entire rest of the time.
I didn't. I will typically default to the easy setting, especially in puzzle
Sure.
games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I played on easy and played through probably hour and a half or so, switching between game modes and stuff. So I didn't try the different difficulties, but I could see going back and trying that.
Yeah, I started on normal and then dropped down to easy because I was making no headway. It was a really big difference. The puzzles on easy, some of them were almost, and this is a bit of an exaggeration, but some of them felt almost that you basically were just walking from one end of the room without really having to deviate from the course a whole lot. The puzzles on normal were a big step up from that. So I don't even know what the puzzles on hard were going to be, but I got stuck even on easy mode. There was a couple times where I really felt my brain burning at trying to figure the solution to get my little tomato out of the room.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely should go back and try that because I felt, again, playing on easy, so it should be easy. I didn't really feel like there were many puzzles that were that bad. I think I ran up against two puzzles when I was playing the heading out mode. So heading out, they're kind of both the same, going up and heading out. You're just playing a level after a level, but going up for whatever reason gives you kind of a cutscene and separates the levels. Mm-hmm. Whereas heading out, once you get to the end, the screen scrolls and you start the new level. But in heading out, I did encounter a couple levels that I couldn't figure out the solution. And I could see that being a pretty big block with this game is if you don't get the kind of what mechanic they're trying to get you to use, having a lot of puzzles that you can't solve because you don't quite get this one little bit of it, if that makes sense.
One thing about the game, since you're talking specifically about like how the mechanics kind of work together and you have to figure out what the game is requiring you to do to solve that puzzle and get Kwirk from the start of the room to the exit on the other side or whatever. Something I noticed is that a few of the puzzles threw more things in the room than you actually needed to interact with.
Yeah.
And it sort of felt like they were kind of faking you out. The puzzle would look like it had a really complex solution, but in actuality, it was just moving a box or two or pushing a turnstile one or two times, and then you would be free.
Yeah.
But if you stared too much at it or overthought it too bad, you would get yourself stuck when the solution was actually extremely simple the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they did a very good job at that because I feel like a lot of the puzzle games we have played so far, Boxel, I feel like Boxel is a very similar game to this.
Oh, 100%. This felt like an immediate improvement on Boxel to me, even though they do have different mechanics in them.
Agreed.
There's no turnstiles and you aren't pushing boxes into like holes to create new platforms and stuff like that. But if you were, then I might have potentially preferred Boxel a little bit better than I did. I can understand that Sokoban as like a genre is more about pushing the boxes into their spaces, and that's a different kind of puzzle than what you're doing here. But I liked this much more than I liked Boxel.
Agreed. And to the point you were making, Boxel, it felt like every tile was intentional and required for the solution.
Yes.
Whereas this, exactly like you said, there were movable blocks that you didn't touch. Like if you touched them, you actually failed the puzzle. And
yeah,
there was extra space and a lot of stuff like that I think did a good job of making the puzzles a little bit more interesting and a little bit more difficult to solve because it wasn't okay, there's a movable block here, I need to interact with that. It almost looked like they put in like red herrings or different things to not trick you, but make it not so obvious what the solution was.
Or potentially to allow you to have multiple solutions so that you were able to get yourself unstuck from a situation that you might have previously thought was unwinnable, or that you were able to not have to spend a ton of time, because that's one thing that this game wants you to do, is be done as fast as possible. So by giving you multiple options, you don't have to spend as much time thinking of the perfect solution.
Yeah.
Especially in the heading out mode, you have a time clock that keeps track of how long you're going. It keeps track of how many steps you've made. You get a bonus amount of points if you finish the puzzle fast. It wants you to move. It wants you to keep going. So making the puzzles overly complicated with only like one exact solution would fight against that. And I think that there are some really well-designed puzzles here.
Yeah.
Even if it turned out that they were all pretty random or like procedurally generated or something like that, I wouldn't be able to tell, because they feel so deliberate, even when they are throwing extra pieces or like an extra character. The multiple character thing I think was really cool and very easy to handle. Just pushing the select button and swapping your character instantly was the simplest thing.
Yeah, I agree. So when I first came up on that mechanic, I was a little confused. You know, I saw another sprite and I was like, I don't know how to interact with that, because if you push A, it kind of brings up a menu, which I think is a little bit of an interesting
button choice. Yeah,
you would think start would do that. Eventually I found, select lets me choose characters, which the manual clearly states that, so if I read the manual I would have known that.
Sure.
But it does, I think, allow more intricate puzzles or a lot more interesting solutions to be able to control multiple characters. And I liked that mechanic, even though it was a little confusing to me when I first encountered it.
I think it's also pretty cool that it can kind of make puzzles that would otherwise be, I guess you could say, trivial with just one character into a whole different ball game when you have another character, because the path you might make for one character could flip up turnstiles or push blocks in the way that prevent the other character from following in that same path.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see that. A+ on the puzzle design and the way that it was married with the mechanics here.
Agreed.
Even the menu being attached to the A button, which I do think is kind of clunky. I definitely reset a puzzle accidentally on myself multiple times. It just kind of happened. But the fact that the menu is there is still really nice, because not only does it let you reset instantaneously, which is a plus.
Yeah, with no penalty or anything like that.
Right. No penalty other than the time that you wasted on the puzzle. But it also lets you take moves back, and not just the very last move you did and nothing else, but multiple moves. And that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it definitely lends itself to much more of a, I guess, forgiving in one way type of puzzle game. Where Boxel, it was like you can take one move back and that's it. So if you make a few wrong moves, you have to restart and the puzzle's over. This very much so felt like at no point was the puzzle just completely shot. Most of the time it felt like you could either salvage it by turning things, moving things, etc. Or you could just move back, and it felt a lot more forgiving in that regard, even though the puzzles weren't easier necessarily.
Yeah, I will say, I don't know if I necessarily agree that there was never a time that the puzzles were like unwinnable. There were definitely times where I would make a single wrong move and I would realize that I had completely locked myself out. There was no... there was nothing I could do. I would have to reset the puzzle. But the difference here, to me, is that I never felt as browbeaten about it here as I did with Boxel. Like, I might have only made one wrong move, and that caused me to have to reset. But because the puzzles were so small, and you definitely move a lot faster in this game than you do in Boxel, which is also really nice. All of those things together made it feel like, okay, well, I'll just reset. I'll try again. Oh, I slipped. Push the box in the wrong place, reset, and then try again. And it was a lot easier to just pick up and keep moving. Whereas Boxel, when I was working on a much larger puzzle or something, and I got really close to the end, and I would make one wrong move or a chain of 2 or 3 wrong moves, it was like, oh man, I have to do this whole thing all over again.
Yeah, now that you say that, I definitely, there were times when I pushed a box into a void or something like that, and there was no going back from that. So I guess my initial comment was, yeah, maybe a little incorrect, but I think you nailed it. It didn't feel that way. It felt better to restart a level or whatever, because most of them were relatively quick. The solutions were, again, not necessarily easier or less thought-provoking, but quicker, if that makes sense. And so having to reset, didn't feel quite as bad, because you knew you could get back to that same point quicker.
I ended up resetting more than I used the back function.
Agreed.
Like, I think I only ever used the back function probably toward like the very end of the time that I was playing, and it was only because I wanted to make sure that I had used it to speak on it. But it was so fast that, like you said, you could get back to the place that you were so quickly that it was easier to just double tap the A button and reset the whole level and just move Kwirk back to where I needed him to go.
Agreed. So I think that's kind of all I have on the mechanics. It's a pretty straightforward game. The puzzles can get pretty complex, so not easy in that regard, but pretty simple as far as the mechanics and all of that are concerned. Is there anything else you want to kind of talk about in this section, or should we have a quick ad break and then talk about the aesthetics?
No, let's go hit the ad break. I will save any other little bits and pieces on this for our battery wrap up at the end.
All right, sounds good.
Ad break. Can't seem to clear any lines in your Tetris? Stuck underwater in Super Mario Land? The old Pokemon grind got you feeling blue? Then stay tuned to Critical DMG. It won't make you better at Game Boy games, but at least you won't feel so alone in how bad you are at them once you've listened to us. Users must provide their own Game Boy. Batteries not included. Certain conditions apply. Void where prohibited. Critical DMG is not responsible for any worsening gameplay after consuming our podcast. In a world not too unlike our own, there are creatures known as pups. Doll-like beings brought to life through magic. These pups used to live a life of peace and harmony in their forests and towns. This was shattered when the evil king Hocus Pocus arrived and began to use mysterious powers to control the poor pups, turning them into an army bent on world domination. As one of the only remaining pup knights with your own free will, it falls to you to take up sword and shield in defense of the once bustling city of Pup Town. Fight your way through stage after stage of enemies, taking them down in back and forth turn-based combat, gaining experience and coins as you go. Keep yourself upgraded and well-fed back at the tavern and other still inhabited places around the town square. The more of the enemy's army you're able to clear out from around Pup Town, the more its inhabitants will make themselves known to you, maybe even helping you continue to grow stronger and better able to put an end to the evil king's reign of terror once and for all. So get going. There's an adorable cast of sprightly furries that needs your help. Will you be the savior of Pup Town? Pup Panic by Unicorp Entertainment is available now on itch.io for all Game Boy systems and emulators. And we're back.
We're back.
That's right. And I don't have a whole lot to say about the music for this one.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of where I usually tend to start unless something else really grabs me. I don't really have a whole lot to say. I think it was cute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my 9-year-old really liked it. Actually said something to me about it like, oh, I really like the music in the background. So it was like cute, you know, kind of charming, but it wasn't like outstanding or anything.
Yeah. My note on the music is it's fine. Again, that's kind of what I'm looking for in game audio. I don't expect everything to be Castlevania and
of course
quite as good as that. It was fine. It was there. Didn't annoy me. Didn't add anything really, in my opinion, but it was fine.
I think the sounds were good. I think that it made all kinds of little pitter-patter noises for your steps, and there was responsive noises for swapping the characters out, and all kinds of jingling and other sorts of noises to go along with the level. I think that it was very responsive in that way.
Yeah, I agree. Audio design felt good. You know, it fit everything well. Again, maybe nothing extremely standout.
Let's talk about some standouts, though. Let's talk about the vegetable sprites. So, if you didn't already know going in that it was supposed to be a tomato, what would you have told me, or what would you tell the audience that your player character sprite was in this game?
I honestly have no idea, because I did go into it not knowing it was a tomato.
Okay.
Even seeing the cover art, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I didn't see that and be like, oh, it's a tomato. I thought it was just like a red dot. So
it looks like Cool Spot.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of went into it thinking it was a red round thing. And the first other character I saw, I thought was maybe like a tree stump or something. Again, because I didn't realize I could switch to that character. I didn't realize it was a character. And yeah, I had no idea what it was. I thought maybe it was, like a tree stump or something like that. And it wasn't until later that I realized what they were. In hindsight, I can see it, but I don't think I would have ever come to that conclusion by myself.
To be fair, the other characters, if you're in a level that has other characters available, their sprites don't move unless you're actively selecting that character. So if you're not playing as Kwirk and you're playing as one of the other vegetable characters, and we are not splitting hairs in this episode about what constitute a fruit or vegetable, we're just getting that out of the way. It's all vegetables. It's all vegetables.
I had a note about that, and I've been debating whether or not to bring that up.
No. Where I am official policy here, as far as Kwirk, he's amazing goes, they're all vegetables.
All right.
So all of the other vegetables that you can be, if you are in a level that has more of them than just Kwirk, if you choose one of them, they start to move. They have animations and stuff, and Kwirk freezes. So it totally makes sense that you don't really recognize them as being an actual character because they don't move until you select them. So the first time I came into a level that had another character, I thought similarly to you that it was just part of the level design, like a movable object, an NPC at best, but pressing the buttons doesn't do anything because the A button just brings up the menu, so you don't have to talk to them. I couldn't figure out what it was until I just started hitting the other buttons and figured out that select swapped my character into the new character, but that was after I had already retried the puzzle half a dozen times because I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do with this, whatever this was supposed to be. I think it was the carrot. And I love that the manual gives them all alliterative names. Like there's Kwirk, and he doesn't have an alliterative name.
Right.
And then his girlfriend, Tammy Tomato, and then all of the vegetable pals all have alliterative names.
So the most important question of this episode, Curly Carrot, Eddie Eggplant, or Pete the Pepper, which is your favorite?
So Curly Carrot is the only one that I actually encountered in the game.
Okay.
Across all the levels that I played, I only had one other vegetable in any of those levels, and it was only Curly Carrot. So that might be bias. I feel like I like Pete Pepper. I like that name better. I think it rings better, but it's hard to say because I never saw that sprite in action. So I think I have to default to Curly Carrot just because I don't have enough experience with the other two sprites to really say.
That's fair, and it very well could be bias on my side as well because I'm heavily in the Eddie Eggplant camp. But that was the first one that I encountered in my playthrough, so maybe there's a little bit of bias there as well. But I'm heavily team Eddie Eggplant.
Okay, that's fair. I just think that it's adorable that they all have these ridiculous alliterative names. And then it's just Kwirk. It's just good old Kwirk. He's too cool for an alliterative nickname. That's what it is with the sunglasses and the sneakers.
Exactly. And I also love the little descriptions. So Curly Carrot, his eyesight is terrific. Eddie Eggplant, keep him away from the Parmesan. And Pete the Pepper, when he's hot, he's hot.
Yep. Okay. See, I can get behind that.
They commit to the bit so well, and I
They
love it.
They do. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So something not so amazing, and kind of why we put in a little attention at the beginning of the episode.
Oh boy.
Specifically in the going up game mode, when you complete a level, the screen just starts flashing. It just literally starts flashing for some reason.
The whole screen, the entire screen, by the way, like, please, if you are just listening to this on YouTube, just audio version, and you tune in randomly, please be advised, it is the whole screen, very fast, and for a decent amount of time, too.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes. Typically, we don't discuss these games too much before the episodes, because we kind of want to get, our actual reactions to each other's thoughts and feelings and whatever.
Yeah.
But this was something that Tony had brought up to me. This is a problem with this game because, she had played it a little bit before I did. And I actually started with the heading out game mode. So that doesn't have the same, I guess, flashing. Once you complete the level, the screen, I guess, scrolls. Or
the idea for heading out is that you're supposed to be experiencing the dungeon as if it was like a contiguous space.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah. So you move essentially from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen. When you get to the left side of the screen, you've beat the level, and then it scrolls over, so you're now on the right side of the screen again. That was my first way to play it. And when I saw the scrolling, I was like, is this what Tony was talking about? Because it's also a little bit harsh on the eyes with the entire scrolling. And then I played the going up mode.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as I beat the first level, okay, this is what you were talking about. And yeah, it's atrocious, and it's
awful.
Not fun to look at, and completely unnecessary,
Yeah, I don't know what the reason to do that was. It could have been just about anything else other than that as an effect. And it's just so out of left field for it to be that. Because there's already like a win screen. Whenever you beat one of the levels, you get a cute screen of Tammy Tomato, being like in a congratulations.
Which I love.
Yeah, I thought that was so cute. Although, how is she congratulating you? Aren't you supposed to be getting through this dungeon to find her? Does she just like meet up with you and then it's like, haha, come find me, Kwirk, and just like runs farther into the dungeon?
Yeah. The princess is not in this castle, but is here, kind of.
Right. Watching you, judging you, running farther when you get to the end. But like, you get that cute cutscene, which I thought was really cute, and you don't even really get to enjoy it a whole lot because the entire screen is just flashing, like a strobing, just horrendously.
Yeah, it felt like much longer than you get the windscreen for, The level flashes out of existence, and then you get the windscreen, and it felt like the flashing was longer than the congratulations screen. And yeah, just a very interesting choice, and I think kind of more indicative of that time where they just didn't think about that. So having the windscreen just being flashing was not a concern.
Yeah, but the question for all of the longtime listeners here of Critical DMG is, which is worse, this or the waterfalls in Super Mario Land?
Ooh, yeah, that is a good question. I think if the waterfall was full screen, it would be worse. But because it was a relatively short segment, these end screens are worse because you can't avoid them, and you can't.
Yes.
Like, you can't just move faster through them. They're just there.
Right. That was going to be my reasoning, that this is so much worse. And because at least in Super Mario Land, you can just keep running and hopefully they will be no longer on your screen. This you see every time you beat a level, every single time, and you have to wait. You can't press a button to make it go away faster. You can't turn it off. There's nothing. You just have to sit through it and wait for it to happen. I constantly found myself turning away from my screen because it was just obnoxious.
I was about to say, this might be better because you didn't have to do gameplay. So I think I looked at it once, and then every time after that, I would look away and, just look at the wall until...
Oops. Okay, absolutely. How could you not?
Yeah. So maybe, it's a little bit better because you didn't actually have to be paying attention, but also just unnecessary, just completely unnecessary.
It was a momentum killer. You would get done with the level so fast. There was literally times, especially with the puzzles being so easy in some of the levels, that you would clear a level in 20 or 30 seconds. So you would get in from one level that you might have spent a couple minutes on because the puzzle was making you rack your brain a little bit. You would get the strobing windscreen, start the next level, be done in 20 or 30 seconds, and then get hit with that same strobing screen again.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a vibe killer. And yeah, just unnecessary. Just, you don't need that. It doesn't add anything, and it is strictly detracting from the experience. But something else that I felt was maybe a little unnecessary.
Okay.
Did you play in diagonal view or bird's eye view?
Ooh, that's right. We haven't really touched on that. I did do both. I did play on both just so that I could say my preference on which one I liked over the other. And having played through probably about a half dozen or so puzzles on both of them, my preference is the top-down.
Okay.
The diagonal view. I'm sorry. I said top-down, but I meant the diagonal view.
Okay.
Not the direct overhead, but what's supposed to be like I guess a 3/4.
Yeah. So part of having so many things that you can select and so many options, they have two different ways to view the puzzles. One is supposed to be giving you more of like a 3-dimensional perspective. That's the diagonal view. I agree with you. That's the one I typically used as well. But it gives shadows of the blocks and walls and that. And then there's the bird's eye view, which is essentially directly 2D, directly from the top, no shadows, all of that. I felt like that was a very unnecessary feature. I don't really know why they added that.
I would wager a guess that it probably has something to do with accessibility. Because one thing that you may have noticed when you were looking at you did play them both? You played in both modes?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were playing as the diagonal mode, there's definition to the level itself. Like you said, everything has kind of a like a drop shadow so that it looks like it's popping in a 3-dimensional way. Kwirk actually has a sprite that runs around. But I can see that being difficult for some people to understand where the physical limits of the pieces that you're pushing around, especially the turnstiles.
Yeah.
And in a game that is keeping track of how many steps you take and how long it takes you to finish the puzzle and everything else, readability is something that you want to have up front and in focus. And so having a top-down version that removes what is ostensibly just an aesthetics thing.
Yeah.
It removes those shadows and it basically squashes everything into a total top-down view. So Kwirk isn't a sprite anymore. It almost just looks like he's a coin or a little badge that's moving around. It makes things very much more readable in that way because you don't have to worry about anything other than the flat 2D space you're working on. And I can understand someone choosing one over the other simply from I can see the puzzle and interpret it more clearly in my brain when it's diagonal versus top down or whichever.
I could see that for sure.
I appreciate that they were there, even though I didn't use the one. I had my own preference for the diagonal mode, but it was nice that they were there because I'm all for accessibility. I think that these kinds of things are always neat, especially in these older games, to see that there was some consideration given for how people playing the game might process puzzles. When you think about people who play puzzle games, especially people that might be recommended puzzle games like children, the elderly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very E for everyone.
Right. So when you're trying to have them play a game like this, you want to make sure that it's as accessible as possible. And if that means making the game just be viewed from a different perspective, then more power to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's a fair take. Interesting that they potentially thought about that with the different views, but then obviously missed it with the flashing.
Right.
I did like the diagonal view the best. I did watch one speed run of the 99 room heading out. They used bird's eye. I don't know if that's just personal preference or if it's, maybe, like you said, a little bit more readable and immediately easier to distinguish.
Could be faster too.
Yeah, maybe. I like the diagonal view. I spent a non-zero amount of time kind of running back and forth with Kwirk to see how his feet kind of looked and like which foot he was tapping when you were...
The animations are so cute.
Yeah, they were definitely pleasant when I was thinking about the puzzle to just kind of mindlessly run around in a circle and watch the animations, which you're not supposed to do because if you're trying to decrease the number of steps you take, etc. But
yeah, it literally has like a pedometer that keeps track the whole time.
But I definitely spent a non-zero amount of time just kind of running in a little square because I liked the animations and I thought it was interesting how the sprite moved.
I think that pretty much does it for me as far as the game's aesthetics. I think the only other thing that I guess that we could touch on a little more is the story that we dropped up front about how you're rescuing Tammy Tomato from inside this dungeon and Kwirk's a cool chilled tomato, and where do his vegetable friends come in? Why are they here? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the idea that Tammy and Kwirk were like out on a date or something, but decided that they were going to go on their date to a dangerous dungeon underneath the city?
Yeah, so the manual goes a little bit more into it, and yeah, I guess they're
so romantic.
Yeah, they were out painting the town tomato red.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and decided to check out this cool subterranean labyrinth.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Hey babe, have you heard about the new cool subterranean labyrinth under the city? That's where we should go.
Interesting date choice, but I guess whatever works. I think the reason I resonate more or I like this story more is because it doesn't feel like it's almost like a parody of itself.
It is not taking itself seriously at all.
Exactly. They know they're kind of having a laugh, making a joke. And I appreciate that versus Hyper Load Runner, where it was this very kind of deep story to something that didn't feel like it was that deep. I like the story and I love how much they committed to it and all of the puns they put in, and I think they did a good job with that.
And how of the time, 100%.
Yeah.
This game could not have come out at any other time
Agreed.
than this time.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's go ahead and see, what is your final opinion on this? Is it worth the batteries to play Kwirk? He is or is not amazing.
Talking about it, I've come around to it more.
Yes.
I think it is my favorite puzzle game that we have played.
Yes.
And I enjoyed it more than any other ones. I'm willing to be convinced that yes, you should. Yeah, I think I'll end with that. I think talking about it more and rethinking about it, I think it's worth it.
I agree. I definitely think that this one is worth the batteries. You put it dead center. I easily think that this is the best puzzle game that we've played. And I know that you can split the hairs of the different kinds of puzzle games that we played. Do you directly compare this game to Tetris, like just because they are technically puzzle games?
Yeah.
You know, like I understand that they're not necessarily the same. Like, why would you play one over the other when you could play both?
Yeah.
Kind of a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
But like in the umbrella of puzzle games that we've played so far, this one was a real winner.
I agree with that.
It's quiz time. Are you ready?
Quiz quiz time. Let's do it.
Can you even begin to predict what I could possibly have to say about Kwirk?
True or false, is a tomato a fruit?
No, we already said. This is still on show time. They are vegetables.
All right. So I'm currently at 79.5%.
Yes, we're going to hit 80 this time.
If I do well, I think I'll be in the 80s. If I don't get them all right, that'll go down a little bit, but let's do it.
Okay. Kwirk quiz. Try to say that 5 times fast. Question 1. Kwirk didn't make many appearances outside of this game for things like merchandise or other tie-in media. There was one exception, though, and it was part of a 1990s cartoon action series known as The Power Team.
Ooh.
This was an animated portion of a larger video game-centric show called Video Power, and it was similar to Captain N the Game Master in that a human kid becomes a member of a group of video game heroes and helps them fight off digital villains. Unlike Captain N's recognizable characters, though, the Power Team was made up of far less household names, including which of these characters that we've already seen on this show. A. Mario from Super Mario Land. B. Kuros from Wizards and Warriors. C. The Lode Runner from Hyper Lode Runner. Or D. Christopher Belmont from Castlevania The Adventures.
I think Castlevania and Mario are too noticeable of IPs.
Mm-hmm. And they were both already characters in Captain N the Game Master. Actually, Mario was not.
And that, which I definitely knew. I'm going to go with B. That was Homeboy from Wizards and Warriors.
Yes, Mighty Kuros from Wizards and Warriors.
I'm going to go with that. That feels the most correct to me.
And you were correct.
Yes.
It was B. So not only is Kuros one of the main heroes of the Power Team, but he even looks more like what the box art shows for the Wizards and Warriors games.
Like Fabio.
Yeah, he's actually like a He-Man type with flowing blonde locks, and he, along with the other members of the team, take on villains from Acclaim's other games.
Oh, okay.
Because the whole thing was a vehicle for Acclaim, so
That makes
it
sense.
includes Kwirk, he's on the team, Kuros from Wizards and Warriors, and then there's other characters like Max Force from a game called Narc, which listeners who played a lot of NES maybe know that one better than me, but they fought evil vegetables from Kwirk, even though I definitely don't remember that in the game that we played. And also Malkill, the evil wizard, it shows up sometimes, so...
Of course.
It was wild. I watched one whole episode of it specifically for research because I, too, am committed to the bit. And I think I would rather watch Captain N the Game Master, and I don't want to watch Captain N the Game Master either.
Oh, fair.
So anyway, all right, you got your first one right, like always.
Looking good.
Okay, question 2. In Japan, Kwirk was originally released as a game called Puzzle Boy or Puzaru Boy. And while the name change coming over to the US might stand out, the actual story and design of the game stayed surprisingly similar. You're still rescuing your sweet tomato love from the floors of a maze-like dungeon. However, only Kwirk has a protagonist that's a tomato as well. In the original Japanese game, as well as all of the related sequels in this series, is it true or false that you're not a tomato, but a potato instead, usually called Spud?
That is true. I almost brought that up in the episode that I wish we were a potato because I like potatoes better. But yeah, that's true. You're a Spud.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Good job. It is true. While all of the rest of the vegetable-related theming is still intact, the original Puzzle Boy game, as well as all of the ports and all of the sequels that were produced with these same characters, they all use a potato instead. So Kwirk is the only one that has you be a tomato. So, sure, okay.
Bizarre that is the change that they decided to make, but, you know, it works.
Well, like, the Spud character in the Potato Puzzle Boy games is, like, kind of cutesy, you know, big eyes, whatever. Still wearing sneakers, so they did keep that, but he's got, like, a little baseball cap kind of on. So it went from that to, like, Cool guy, aviator,
yeah.
sunglasses, mohawk, tomato.
Yeah, I guess they knew their audience or something, but
It was the 90s, so, you know. We just got done saying how much a product of its time it was, so I guess we can't say too much else.
Fair.
All right. All right, 2 for 2.
2 for 2.
You ready to bring it home?
I'll try.
Okay. Question 3. With the way that video game IP and licensing works, it's little surprise when lesser-known titles like Kwirk have the rights to their characters and games disappear into the historical ether, or maybe worse, be caught in some kind of rights limbo that prevents further works to be made. Back in 2018, a large number of Acclaim's previous game properties were bought by Canadian studio Liquid Media Group for $1 million, and among them was the rights to Kwirk. Since that time, though, nothing has been done or announced for the Plucky Tomato, at least not from any official channels. Instead, a ROM hack for Kwirk has just released as of September of this year, 2025, that does what for the game? A. Upgrades the game to a full-color DX version. B. Adds entirely new game modes not in the original. C. Changes the sprites from fruits and vegetables to dinosaurs. Or D. Removes Kwirk's glasses to make him less of a cool guy.
Well, I guess it can't be C and D. I was like, is there an all of the above option? Because I could see all
there's
of
not.
those, but
Nope.
Oh, I want to say A. It feels the most likely to make it colored and update the graphics. New game modes, I think, also could be there. I would love if it was actually C and I'm wrong and they did just change them to dinosaurs, but I don't think that's it. So I'm going to go with A, that they colorized it and updated the visuals.
It's A.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, the Kwirk DX hack was released by user The Adam Rippin for romhack.ing, ROM hacking, just last month. It completely colorizes the game, doesn't do anything else, just that, and is actually one of 5 color hacks by the same user.
Okay.
All of which are for games that we will see throughout this show.
Ooh. Yeah, I think that's the first time I'm like, it would be hilarious if I was wrong, and kind of was hoping that I was wrong, but I wasn't. So 3 for 3. I'm
fastest way to get you to download a ROM hack is they change it from Kwirk to vegetables to dinosaurs.
Yeah. But I'm now at 81%, so doing all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Finally in the B range.
Kwirk did it. He was such a cool guy that he brought you to B range.
Had to eat my vegetables.
That all you had to do. Listen in, kids. All of our kid listeners. There you go. Eat your vegetables.
And your fruits.
And your fruits. Hey. All right. Speaking of listeners at home, let's go ahead with the audience question.
All right.
So, while it's true that Kwirk didn't really receive much in the way of merchandise here in the States, that wasn't true in Japan with the original Puzzle Boy game. While browsing eBay for exactly these kinds of things, which I am known to do, I stumbled onto a horrendously expensive pair of Puzzle Boy merch items for sale. And while they are quite adorable, I will not be spending the money on them. What kind of merch are they?
I have no idea. I know what I would hope they are, but we'll talk about that next week, I suppose.
Yep, you'll have to wait.
All right. I think that brings us to the end of our vegetable saga. Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts and maybe recommend us to a friend or anyone else you might know who would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. Tune in next week when we talk about Malibu Beach Volleyball.
I saw this on the sheet. I looked at this, and I was like, oh man, this could go so many ways.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this is. Bit of a tone shift, obviously, from a cute tomato to whatever Malibu Beach Volleyball is going to be. But we'll find out next week, and dive into it.
Hoping for fun in the sun.
Yes, exactly.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.